What does it mean to live a life worthy of reverence, not through fleeting fame or material riches, but through the enduring strength of character that resonates across generations? At Ancient Wisdom, we invite you to traverse a profound path, exploring the 8 virtues that define a person of true nobility: benevolence, kindness, trustworthiness, magnanimity, honesty, humility, integrity, and perseverance. These are not mere ideals, but living principles, forged in the crucibles of ancient thought, from the Stoic meditations of Marcus Aurelius to the Confucian harmonies of the East. As Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This journey offers a mirror to your soul, asking, how many of these virtues do I embody? In this exploration, we unravel each virtue's essence, weaving insights from philosophy's vast tapestry to reveal their timeless relevance. We'll also confront their shadows, the deceptive traits that mimic goodness yet erode authenticity, equipping you to discern within yourself and others. Whether you seek personal growth, resilience, or a deeper grasp of human nature, this Odyssey promises illumination. At Ancient Wisdom, we unearth the treasures of philosophical traditions, Stoicism, Buddhism, Kantian ethics, and beyond to guide you toward a life of meaning. Pause, reflect, and join us as we ask, what makes a soul noble? Through this video, we don't just ponder wisdom philosophy, we live it, step by step, virtue by virtue. The 8 virtues, and their shadows, a philosophical tapestry. To live virtuously is to engage in a perennial struggle and intimate wrestle with the chaos of existence that refines the soul into something extraordinary. The ancients understood this as both a personal quest and a universal calling, a delicate balance between light and shadow that shapes our humanity. Although we embark on an expansive exploration of the 8 virtues of a noble soul, their philosophical roots, their practical applications, and the counterfeit traits that obscure their brilliance. This is not a lecture but an invitation to reflect, to grow, and to embody the wisdom philosophy that has guided humanity for millennia. Benevolence, the wellspring of a blessed existence. Benevolence emerges as the cornerstone of virtuous living, a golden thread that binds individuals to the greater good. The ancient Chinese adage, "A man of great virtue can bear all things," encapsulates its essence. A heart rich in benevolence possesses the strength to shoulder life's heaviest loads. This virtue transcends mere altruism. It is the deliberate choice to prioritize others' well-being, even at personal cost. Confucius framed this as the path to harmony both within oneself and across society, suggesting that those who embrace selflessness cultivate not just success but reverence. Yet, benevolence is not blind generosity. It demands discernment and awareness of when it uplifts and when it enables. The Stoic Epictetus might argue that our control lies in our intentions, not in others' gratitude, urging us to give without attachment to outcomes. Picture a weary traveler who shares his last loaf with a stranger, not for praise, but for the quiet satisfaction of easing another's hunger. This is benevolence in action. It flows from an inner abundance, a recognition that true wealth lies not in hoarding but in giving. This virtue's philosophical lineage stretches across cultures. In Buddhist teachings, Dana generosity purifies the giver, stripping away ego's grasp. Kant, too, might see benevolence as a rational duty, an act aligned with the universal good. Yet, its practice requires resilience, for the world often repays kindness with indifference. The benevolent soul persists, finding joy in the act itself, not its echo. Contrast this with its shadow, the ostentatious giver who showers largesse for applause, not impact. Such a person mistakes charity for theater, their generosity a hollow spectacle. In ancient Rome, Seneca critiqued such displays, noting that true virtue seeks no audience. Benevolence, in the wisdom philosophy of Ancient Wisdom, is a silent force, unseen yet transformative, a testament to the soul's capacity for grace. Consider the tale of a humble merchant who, during a famine, distributed his wares to the starving, asking nothing in return. His act rippled outward, inspiring a village to rebuild. This is benevolence's power. It sows seeds of hope, proving that a single virtuous act can alter destinies. Yeah, its shadow lurks in the braggart who boasts of every coin dropped, their kindness a mask for vanity. True benevolence, rooted in humility, needs no herald, it simply is. Kindness, the pulse of moral grandeur. Kindness pulses at the heart of a noble life, a virtue that elevates the ordinary into the sublime. It stems from compassion, a profound recognition of shared frailty that binds us all. A Buddhist concept of benevolence offers a lens to extend goodwill universally, even to those who wrong us. A kind person earns respect not through dominance but through the tender strength of empathy, a quality revered from the Himalayan monasteries to the Agora of Athens. This virtue is active, not passive. It compels us to do good not as a performance, but as an instinct honed by practice. Kant's categorical imperative resonates here. Act as if your kindness could become a universal law. When we aid a fallen stranger or comfort a grieving friend, we affirm a moral cosmos where dignity reigns. Yet, kindness must wield wisdom. Unchecked, it risks fostering dependence rather than empowerment. The Stoics, like Seneca, might caution against sentimental excess, urging a balance of heart and reason. Kindness manifests in countless forms. Imagine a teacher who lingers after class to guide a struggling student not for accolades, but because she sees potential where others see failure. This is kindness as a bridge, spanning divides of status or creed. Its philosophical depth lies in its universality. Aristotle's eudaimonia, flourishing thrives when we uplift others, for their joy becomes ours. Yet, its shadow looms in the manipulator, who feigns compassion to bind others to their will. Such a person's kindness is a snare, unraveling under scrutiny. The truly kind, as ancient wisdom teaches, live transparently, free of guilt by day, untroubled by ghosts at night. This virtue, in its purest form, is a beacon of trust, illuminating the path to a life of moral grandeur. Reflect on the story of a monk who, amid war, shared his meager rice with refugees. Was act, small in scope, radiated peace, proving that kindness need not be grand to be profound. Its counterfeit, however, thrives in the flatterer who offers honeyed words to exploit, a stark reminder that wisdom philosophy demands we pierce appearances to find the genuine. Trustworthiness, the anchor of human connection. Trustworthiness stands as the bedrock of all bonds, a virtue extolled by sages across epochs. The ancients warned, a man without trust achieves nothing, for society rests on the fragile yet mighty pillar of mutual faith. To keep one's word is to forge a covenant, not just with others, but with the self. The trustworthy soul does not bend when promises grow burdensome. They stand firm, knowing integrity is the coin of respect. This virtue requires courage, a willingness to honor commitments when convenience tempts betrayal. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, urged us to act justly even unseen, for character's true test unfolds in solitude. Trustworthiness builds communities where deceit fractures them, fostering cooperation over chaos. Yet, it is not blind fidelity. It discerns when trust must be withheld from the treacherous. Philosophically, trustworthiness aligns with Aristotle's ethics of Ph1's, is practical wisdom that navigates life's complexities with honor. It's the merchant who delivers goods as promised, the friend who guards a secret, the leader who owns their failures. Each act reinforces a web of reliance, proving that trust is not a gift but a labor. Its shadow emerges in the deceiver, whose promises dissolve like mist. In ancient Greece, tales abound of silver-tongued betrayers like Alcibiades, whose charisma masked duplicity, leaving ruin in their wake. The trustworthy, by contrast, shine as lighthouses, their reliability a gift to a skeptical world. But ancient wisdom, we see this as a cornerstone of wisdom philosophy, a pledge to truth that anchors us amid life's storms. Consider a general who, against odds, kept his vow to defend a city. His soldiers, inspired by his steadfastness, rallied to victory. This is trustworthiness's ripple. It inspires loyalty, proving that one soul's honor can sway multitudes. With counterfeit, the turncoat sows distrust. A lesson in why philosophy for life demands we cherish this virtue. Magnanimity, the majesty of a forgiving heart. Magnanimity, a term heavy with grandeur, captures the nobility of a soul that forgives where others condemn. To be magnanimous is to be great, the ancients declared, for it requires a spirit vast enough to embrace even adversaries. This virtue mirrors the Stoic ideal of equanimity, accepting human flaws as we accept nature's caprice. The magnanimous person rises above petty grudges, finding strength in mercy. Kant might frame this as a triumph of reason over resentment, a choice to prioritize understanding over retribution. It does not excuse harm, but seeks the humanity beneath it, focusing on others' virtues rather than their faults. Imagine a ruler who pardons a rebel not from weakness, but from a vision of unity. This is magnanimity's gift. It heals divisions, liberating both forgiver and forgiven. Yet, its practice is arduous. To overlook slights requires shedding ego. It ask Nietzsche might call a will to power over oneself. It's the parent who forgives a wayward child, the colleague who mends a rift with a foe. Each act widens the soul, aligning with Buddhist karuna, compassion, and Confucian renhumanances. Its shadow is the arrogant pardoner who forgives with condescension, not care. In Rome, Cicero scorned such posturing, noting that true magnanimity humbles the giver. With ancient wisdom, we see this as a pillar of wisdom philosophy, a call to rise above, forging peace from strife with a heart both strong and gentle. Recall a diplomat who, after betrayal, offered reconciliation not for gain, but for progress. His magnanimity turned enemies into allies, a testament to its power. Its counterfeit, however, thrives in the smug who forgive to feel superior, a hollow echo of the real. Honesty, the light of authenticity. Honesty is the soul's unclouded mirror, a virtue so elemental that its absence undermines all else. To be honest is to be human, the ancients insisted, for deceit severs us from truth's embrace. An honest person wields candor, not as a weapon but as a bridge, offering clarity amid confusion. Nietzsche might laud this as courage, the bravery to face rejection in a world that craves flattery. This virtue spans words and deeds, reporting facts faithfully, owning errors, rejecting fraud. It earns trust, anchoring us in a society that falters without sincerity. Yet honesty is not tactlessness. It tempers truth with kindness, mindful of its weight. Picture a judge who rules justly, unmoved by bribes, or a child who confesses a fault. Each embodies honesty's quiet power. Philosophically, it aligns with Socrates' pursuit of truth, a relentless quest for the real. It's the friend who speaks hard truths, the worker who admits a mistake. Each act fortifies character, proving that honesty is not just virtue but necessity. Its shadow is the hypocrite who cloaks lies in half-truths, eroding faith with every ruse. In Greek myth, Odysseus's cunning sometimes veered into deceit, a foil to the steadfast honesty of Penelope. The honest soul, as ancient wisdom teaches, stands as a pillar, transparent, resolute, a guidepost in wisdom philosophy's map. Think of a scribe who, risking censure, recorded a king's folly. His honesty preserved history's truth, proving its might. Its counterfeit, the liar, weaves webs that ensnare, a reminder that philosophy for life hinges on this luminous virtue. Humility, the silent strength of restraint. Humility is the understated power that curbs pride, a virtue that exalts by lowering. Humble yourself in all things, the ancients counseled, for arrogance blinds while modesty reveals. Your humble soul does not diminish their worth but embraces their limits, opening doors to growth and alliance. The Stoics saw this as liberation, freedom from the need to dazzle. This virtue fosters wisdom, admitting ignorance where ego claims mastery. It shuns flattery and greed, valuing the deed over the laurel. Yet, it's not self-effacement. It dances between confidence and deference. Imagine a scholar who credits her mentors, or a leader who seeks counsel. Each embodies humility's grace. Philosophically, it echoes Lao-Tzu's Tao Te Ching, the soft overcomes the hard. It's the warrior who bows to a foe's skill, the artist who refines her craft in silence. Each act deepens the soul, proving humility's might. Its shadow is the sycophant who feigns modesty for gain, a shallow charade. In Rome, Tacitus scorned such toadies, praising instead the quiet dignity of the humble. At ancient wisdom, we see this as a keystone of wisdom philosophy, a strength that wins love through authenticity. Recall a healer who, despite renown, served the poor unnoticed, by humility-inspired devotion, proving its quiet force. Its counterfeit, the flatterer, crumbles under truth's gaze, a lesson in why this virtue endures. Integrity, the north star of conscience. Integrity is the steadfast harmony of deed and duty, a virtue that defines nobility. All can be upright, the ancients taught, for while greatness fades, integrity endures. An upright soul acts from principle, not expedience, guided by an unwavering moral compass. Kant's duty ethics resonate here. To act from conscience, not caprice, is virtue's hallmark. This quality demands resolve, upholding truth when it costs us. It rejects bias, bending neither for friend nor foe. Integrity is trust's backbone, a legacy outlasting triumphs. Yet, it requires humility to confess lapses, for perfection eludes us all. Philosophically, it aligns with Aristotle's bereft excellence of character. It's the citizen who votes justly, the artisan who perfects his trade. Each act builds a life of honor, proving integrity's permanence. Its shadow is the opportunist who sways with every breeze, spineless amid challenge. In history, figures like Judas betrayed for silver, a stark contrast to the upright who shine as stars. But ancient wisdom, we see this as wisdom philosophy's compass guiding us through moral fog with conscience's light. Think of a poet who, under tyranny, wrote truth at peril. His integrity outlived his oppressors, proving its might. Its counterfeit, the turncoat, falters, a reminder that philosophy for life rests on this rock. Perseverance, the alchemist of destiny. Perseverance is the forge where noble souls are shaped, the resolve to endure where others yield. Water wears away stone, the ancients observed, showing that persistence trumps brilliance. A persevering person pursues ends with relentless patience, and daunted by obstacles. Marcus Aurelius might call this the art of bearing what we cannot alter while molding what we can. His virtue weds effort to faith, trust in the goal amid toil. It rejects half-heartedness, embracing the task to its end. Yet, it's not rigidity, it adapts without losing sight. Picture a sailor navigating storms, or a farmer tilling barren land. Each embodies perseverance's grit. Philosophically, it echoes Nietzsche's hammer for loving one's fate. It's the student who masters a craft through years, the reformer who fights injustice tirelessly. Each step forges triumph, proving perseverance's alchemy. Its shadow is the dabbler who flits aimlessly, achieving naught. In myth, Sisyphus's endless task contrasts the hero who overcomes. At ancient wisdom, we see this as wisdom philosophy's fire transforming struggle into gold. Recall an inventor who, after failures, lit the world, was perseverance rewrote history, proving its power. Its counterfeit, the quitter, fades, a lesson in why this virtue reigns. The seven shadows, unveiling the masquerade. Virtues cast light, but shadows deceive, traits that ape goodness yet rot the soul. Discerning them hones our wisdom, vital in a world of illusion. One the charmer without depth, a glib tongue enchants, but sans sincerity it betrays. These souls weave tales that dazzle yet lack roots. In the Three Kingdoms, Yin Fu's florid word swayed Sun Quan, only to collapse indeed. Wisdom philosophy bids us seek substance beyond sheen. Our charm is a siren's call, alluring yet empty. They thrive on impression, not impact. A lesson from Socrates, truth outlasts flattery. Contrast this with the quiet, to whose acts speak louder than words being noble foil. To the shallow scholar, broad knowledge without depth feigns mastery, yet buckles under weight. These minds skim life's surface, never plunging deep. Their pathos lies in squandered promor, say warning of wit sans focus. They recite facts that lack insight, a parody of erudition. Plato might pity them half-formed philosophers lost in shadows. The true scholar digs deep, proving wisdom's roots matter more than its branches. 3. The pretender of insight. Ignorance masked as wisdom imperils all. These souls feign grasp, to save face or please, risking calamity especially in craft or counsel. Socrates' humility, knowing he knew nothing, counters this folly. Their pretense is a house of cards, toppling under pressure. In contrast, the honest seeker admits limits, building on truth. This shadow teaches us to prize authenticity over illusion. For the slime imic, cunning cloaked as cleverness echoes others, brilliance lacking originality. These souls twist borrowed ideas, thriving on guile. Their success is a mirage, unearned and frail. They dodge creation's labor, a theft of spirit. Aristotle's poiesis is making a new shames their echo. The authentic voice, however soft, outshines this hollow chorus. 5. The evader of reality. Cowardice posing as tact flees truth, dodging challenge with finesse. Thy souls manage small roles but flounder in crises. Their retreat a subtle ruin. Resilience, not flight, marks virtue. They skirt accountability, a shadow of duty. Epictetus might scorn their weakness. Control lies in facing, not fleeing. The steadfast soul confronts, proving strength through trial. 6. The soulless imitator. Copying genius sans soul is plundered dressed as talent. Theses mimic masters, fooling the naive, yet their core is void. Originality, even modest, trumps this theft. They steal light but cast no glow, a parody of creation. In contrast, the innovator, however flawed, shines true, a beacon in wisdom's night. 7. The obstinate egoist. Stubbornness masquerading as resolve clings to folly, defying reason. These souls resist growth, pride their shackle. Patience may sway them, but wisdom knows when to part. Their rigidity is a prison, unlike perseverance's flex. Nietzsche's Übermensch adapts while enduring the shadow merely stagnates, a lesson in discernment. Discerning the soul, ancient methods of insight. Beyond virtues and flaws, how do we pierce the human veil? The ancients offered timeless tools: speech, form, action grounded in philosophical depth. Speech, the soul's echo. A deep river flows slowly, the proverb intones, tying calm words to wisdom. Deliberate speech reflects depth, bluster betrays shallows. A father's lesson: empty carts rattle loudest, mirrors this truth. The wise speak to edify, not entertain. Their words a mirror of thought. Contrast the braggart whose noise drowns, meaning a goal to heed substance over sound. Appearance, the body's tale. Demeanor unveils character. Measured eating signals order. A genuine laugh, sincerity. Restless haste hints at unrest, clues to the inner life. From loud to stillness to Aristotle's hex's habit, form reflects soul. The poised outshine the frantic, a testament to discipline's quiet power. Behavior, the deeds of truth. Actions unveil what words conceal. Generosity to the weak shows mercy. Rage reveals patience's lack. Guiguzi's tests wealth. Poverty, ties probe this depth. From Confucian right to Stoic duty, behavior is character's proof. The virtuous act with intent, their lives a sermon in motion. Guiguzi's fivefold vision, piercing the mask. Guiguzi, strategist sage, offered 5 gazes. wealth's use, poverty's restraint, companions' endorsements, filial acts. These strip pretense, revealing motives a stoic exercise in clarity. Cleanse and veils truth, show one wields power, resists want, chooses kin, lifts others, honors roots. Together, they map the soul's terrain, a wisdom philosophy for all ages. Confucian and beyond, the art of knowing. Confucius's trials loyalty and strife, calm in chaos join Jia Kat Luong's tests of valor and trust. This chorus of insight bids us look deep, a tapestry of discernment for life's maze. With ancient wisdom, we've traversed the 8 virtues from benevolence's grace to perseverance's grit that craft a noble soul, shadowed by flaws that test our sight. These are not relics but lanterns, echoing Marcus Aurelius's charge to live virtuously. They offer resilience, honor, and the wisdom to sift truth from sham gifts for a meaningful life amid modernity's din. Which virtue stirs you? Comment 1 if this rings true, 0 if it feels remote. Your voice shapes our path. Like, share, and subscribe to join our pursuit of ancient truths, and catch Sophia and Lucas unpacking these ideas next. Philosophy isn't passive, it's a summons to nobility. Will you heed it?
All right, ready to dive deep with us today?
Always.
We're going deep into the 8 virtues of a noble soul.
Ooh, sounds intense.
It is, but we've got this awesome piece on ancient wisdom as our guide, so we're in good hands.
Ancient wisdom, always a good place to start. So where do we begin?
Well, they jump right in with benevolence, calling it like the foundation of a virtuous life.
Okay, benevolence. I feel like that word gets thrown around a lot. What does it actually mean in this context?
It's not just about being nice or charitable, it's about genuinely putting others first, like really prioritizing their well-being.
Even when it's hard.
Especially when it's hard. They actually quote this ancient Chinese saying, "A man of great virtue can bear all things."
So it's about having the strength to do what's right, even when it's difficult or inconvenient.
Exactly, like that traveler who shares his last loaf of bread, even though he doesn't know where his next meal is coming from.
Wow, that's a powerful image. But doesn't ancient wisdom also talk about discernment? Like, how do you know when you're truly helping someone versus enabling bad behavior?
That's a great question. And yeah, they definitely emphasize that. It's not about being naive or a pushover.
So how do you balance that? How do you know when to help and when to step back?
Well, they talk about the importance of intention. It's about acting from a place of genuine care, not out of some sense of obligation or guilt.
Okay, so it's about the motivation behind the action.
Right. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers, they were really big on that. Like Epictetus, he said, your focus should be on acting from a place of genuine care, not on whether the other person is grateful or not.
So it's about inner abundance, like you're overflowing with goodwill, and some of it naturally spills over to others.
Exactly. It's not about expecting a pat on the back for every good deed.
And it's not about enabling, right? Like sometimes the most benevolent thing you can do is to set boundaries.
Absolutely. It's about empowering others, not creating dependency.
Okay, so benevolence, it's deeper than I thought. But isn't there a danger of people using it to manipulate others? Like putting on a show of generosity to gain something for themselves?
Ah, you're talking about the shadow of benevolence.
The shadow? What does that mean?
It's like the distorted version of the virtue. Ancient wisdom calls it the ostentatious giver.
The person who gives, but only for show. Like, they want the applause, not to actually help.
Exactly. Their generosity is all about appearances.
Yeah.
It's a performance, not a genuine act of care.
So it's like those folks who make a big deal about their donations, but only to causes that get them good PR. All flash, no substance.
Precisely. And they're missing the whole point. True benevolence, it doesn't need a spotlight.
It comes from the heart, not the ego.
Okay, so we've covered benevolence. Up next is kindness.
Kindness. How is that different from benevolence?
Well, they're definitely related, but ancient wisdom describes kindness as the heartbeat of a truly moral life. It's about recognizing our shared humanity, our shared fragility.
So it's like saying, hey, we're all in this together, let's be good to each other.
Exactly. And it's not just a feeling, it compels us to act. You've probably heard of Kant, the philosopher.
Vaguely. Wasn't he all about being really strict with himself?
He was, but he also had this idea called the categorical imperative.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's that?
It basically means act in a way that you'd want everyone else to act.
Oh, like the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated.
Exactly. So if everyone were kind, imagine what the world would be like. But here's the thing. Ancient wisdom also warns against being too kind.
Too kind. Is that even possible?
Well, they say that unchecked kindness can actually lead to dependency rather than empowerment.
So it's not about blindly giving, but being thoughtful, like making sure your kindness actually helps someone grow and thrive.
Yes. That's kindness acting as a bridge, not a crutch.
I see. But just like with benevolence, there's a shadow side to kindness too.
There is, and this one can be really sneaky. It's the manipulator, the person who uses feigned compassion to control others.
So they're pretending to be kind to get what they want. Their kindness is actually a weapon.
Exactly. It's a trap, not a gift.
Man, that's devious. It makes you wonder who you can really trust.
That's why discernment is so important. And that's why ancient wisdom is so big on living transparently, being the same person in public and private.
So true kindness, it shines through consistently. Doesn't need a fake smile.
Right. 2 virtues down, 6 to go. Next up is trustworthiness.
Yeah, that's a big one, especially these days.
It is, and ancient wisdom hits hard on how vital it is. They even say, a man without trust achieves nothing.
Wow, that's a strong statement. So they're saying trustworthiness is like the foundation for everything else.
It's the bedrock of relationships, from personal friendships to, global politics.
The glue that holds society together.
Exactly. And they even go so far as to say keeping your word is like a sacred covenant.
Not just with others, but with yourself too, right? Like you're building a reputation for integrity.
Absolutely. And that takes courage,
Courage. How so?
Think about it. Doing the right thing, keeping your promises, even when it's hard or no one's watching, that takes guts.
Yeah, you're right. Like Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, who was also a Stoic philosopher, he wrote about that a lot.
He did. He was all about acting justly, even when no one was looking. That's true trustworthiness.
But isn't there a danger of being too trusting? Like, what about those times when you need to walk away from a situation or a person?
You're right. Being discerning is key. Ancient wisdom isn't about being a pushover. It's about knowing when to trust and when to hold back.
So it's a two-way street. You're being reliable yourself, but you're also being wise about who you choose to trust.
Right. And that takes wisdom, which comes with experience.
So trustworthiness, it's about being reliable, being discerning, and having a strong moral compass.
Exactly. But of course, there's a shadow side to trustworthiness too, and that is the deceiver.
Ugh, those are the worst. They're the ones who make it hard to trust anyone.
Ancient Greece was full of these figures, charming, charismatic, but ultimately treacherous, all about broken promises and shattered expectations.
Yeah, like Alcibiades, the Athenian general who betrayed his own city-state. Talk about a cautionary tale.
Right. It's a reminder that trust is precious and easily broken. So, trustworthiness. It's a beacon of hope in a world where deceit and manipulation run rampant.
Okay, so we've got benevolence, kindness, and trustworthiness. What's next?
Next up is magnanimity.
Magnanimity. Now, that's a word you don't hear every day.
I know, right? Ancient wisdom describes it as having a heart big enough to embrace even your adversaries.
Embrace your adversaries. That sounds tough.
It is. It's all about forgiveness and rising above petty grievances.
Like letting go of the need to be right or get even.
Exactly. They give this example of a ruler pardoning a rebel, not out of weakness, but from a vision of unity.
Wow, that takes incredible strength of character.
I know, it's not easy. But remember, magnanimity isn't about letting people off the hook. It's about choosing to focus on their virtues rather than their faults.
Even when they've messed up.
Especially when they've messed up. It's about seeing the best in people, even when it's hard, almost superhuman, right?
It is. Like Nietzsche, the philosopher, might say it's a will to power over yourself, the ability to transcend your ego's desire for revenge.
Exactly. It's a difficult path, but incredibly rewarding. Think about it. When you forgive someone, don't you feel a sense of peace? Like a weight has been lifted.
That's true, actually. Holding a grudge is exhausting.
It is. Ancient wisdom suggests that magnanimity can actually heal divisions and create a sense of peace, both for the forgiver and the forgiven.
So it's like a win-win. But isn't there a danger of magnanimity being used as a tool for manipulation? Like, what about those folks who make a big show of forgiving someone but are actually just trying to make themselves look good?
That's the shadow of magnanimity. Ancient wisdom calls it the arrogant pardoner.
So it's not genuine forgiveness, it's just another form of egotism.
Exactly. They're more interested in appearing virtuous than in actually being virtuous.
That makes sense. So true magnanimity, it's about genuine understanding and a desire for reconciliation, not a chance to flaunt your moral superiority.
Okay, magnanimity check. What's next?
Let's talk about honesty.
Okay, honesty. This one feels like a bedrock of any decent society.
Absolutely. They say to be honest is to be human, emphasizing that deception cuts us off from truth and authenticity.
Like, lying creates a wall between you and reality.
Exactly. And Nietzsche, who's always good for a provocative thought, might say, honesty requires a special kind of courage. The courage to face rejection rather than telling people what they want to hear.
Ooh, I like that. So it's about being straightforward, owning up to mistakes, living with integrity.
Right, but doesn't that mean you have to be brutally honest all the time? What about those little white lies we tell to protect someone's feelings?
That's a good question. And ancient wisdom reminds us that honesty needs to be tempered with kindness.
So it's finding the right balance between truth and compassion.
Exactly. So we're talking about the judge who rules fairly, the child who confesses a wrong, the friend who gives honest feedback even when it's tough to hear.
All examples of honesty in action. Each one strengthens the fabric of trust.
But of course, honesty has its shadow side, too.
Yeah.
The hypocrite, the person who hides behind half-truths and twists language to deceive. They create an illusion of honesty while constantly undermining trust.
Oh, I know the type. Like those politicians who promise everything but deliver nothing.
Or that coworker who steals your ideas and pretends they're their own.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Ancient wisdom contrasts this with the genuinely honest person who is transparent and resolute, a guidepost in a world full of moral gray areas.
So honesty is about living authentically, speaking the truth with kindness, and backing up your words with actions.
All right, honesty check. What's next?
Let's dive into humility.
Humility. Honestly, this one feels a little counterintuitive in our look-at-me culture.
Right. It's all about keeping pride in check.
So what's their take on it?
They describe humility as having the silent strength of restraint. It's almost like saying true power lies in knowing your limits.
Not pretending you're perfect.
Exactly. They even quote that ancient proverb, humble yourself in all things.
Okay, but it's not about self-deprecation.
No, it's about valuing substance over accolades. Like, think of the scholar who readily credits her mentors.
Or the leader who seeks advice from others.
Yes. Those are examples of humility in action.
So it's not about denying your accomplishments. It's about recognizing that you don't know everything.
And that you can always learn from others.
Exactly. Philosophically, it echoes what Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, taught in the Tao Te Ching.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He said, the soft overcomes the hard.
So humility is about adaptability without losing your core values.
But like all the other virtues, it has a shadow, right?
It does. What do you think it is?
Let me think. Is it the person who pretends to be humble but is actually just fishing for compliments?
You got it. The shadow of humility is the sycophant.
The ones who are always downplaying their achievements but subtly steering the conversation back to themselves.
Exactly. They're using humility as a tool for manipulation.
Sneaky. So, true humility, it's about self-awareness and authenticity.
Okay, humility down. What's next?
Integrity.
This one feels almost like a guiding principle for all the other virtues, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. They describe integrity as the North Star of conscience.
What a great image. It's about aligning your actions with your values.
Even when it's tough, they emphasize that integrity is what truly defines nobility.
Because accomplishments fade, but integrity, it endures. But isn't that easier said than done?
For sure. How do you stay true to your values when the pressure is on?
That's where Kant's concept of duty ethics comes into play.
Duty ethics. Remind me.
He believed in acting out of a sense of moral obligation, not just self-interest.
So doing what's right even when it's unpopular or costs you something.
Exactly, like doing the right thing even when no one is watching.
It's about having that inner strength to stick to your principles.
So think of the citizen who votes conscientiously, the artisan who takes pride in their craft, the leader who makes tough decisions that benefit the greater good.
All examples of integrity in action. But what about the shadow side of integrity?
What do you think? Who embodies that distortion?
I'd say it's the person who bends their principles to suit the situation.
You got it. Ancient wisdom calls this shadow the opportunist. They're like a chameleon, constantly changing colors to blend in and get ahead.
Oh, like those people who are always on the winning side, no matter what the winning even means, their values shift with the wind.
Exactly. History is full of these figures. Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus for personal gain.
Ouch. Talk about a stark reminder of what happens when integrity is compromised.
So integrity is about having that strong moral compass, standing by your principles, and doing the right thing even when it's hard.
Okay, integrity check. What's next?
Our final virtue, perseverance.
Ah, the one we could all use a little more of.
I know, right? It's all about grit, determination, sticking with your goals even when you hit setbacks.
Ancient wisdom calls it the alchemist of destiny.
Love that. So it's about believing in your vision, even when you can't see the finish line.
And they bring up Marcus Aurelius again, remember him. Focus on controlling what you can and accepting what you can't.
Right, it's a key part of perseverance.
So it's about adapting without losing sight of your goals.
It's like a sailor navigating through a storm, or a farmer who keeps working the land despite a drought. Dedication and resilience.
And philosophically, it connects to Nietzsche's idea of amor fati, love of fate.
Embracing challenges as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. So we're talking about that student who masters a skill through years of practice, the activist who fights tirelessly for social justice, the inventor who keeps experimenting despite failures.
All those amazing stories of people who just refuse to give up. But of course, even perseverance has a shadow side, right?
Let me guess. Is it the person who starts a million projects but never finishes any of them?
You got it. Ancient wisdom calls this shadow the dabbler.
All talk, no action.
They lack that commitment and follow-through, which leads to wasted potential.
So true perseverance, it's about being dedicated, focused, willing to put in the work. The ones who turn dreams into reality.
So there you had it. Benevolence, kindness, trustworthiness, magnanimity, honesty, humility, integrity, and perseverance. The 8 virtues of a noble soul, according to ancient wisdom.
Wow, that was a whirlwind tour of virtue.
It was. But each one of these virtues, they're not just some abstract ideal. They're practical tools for navigating life, for building a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
And each one has that shadow side lurking nearby, ready to trip us up if we're not careful. But that's what makes this so fascinating, right?
It does. And it makes you wonder, how do we actually put these virtues into practice in our daily lives? How do we cultivate them? How do we spot the difference between the real deal and the imposter?
Yeah, how do we actually live this stuff? It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another to actually embody it.
That's a great question, and it's exactly what we'll be diving into next. So how do we actually make these virtues a part of our lives? It's not like we can just download them.
Yeah. Right, it's definitely not an instant upgrade. Ancient wisdom really stresses that this is a journey, a process of self-discovery and growth. It's more like training for a marathon, not a sprint.
Consistency is key, got it. But how do we actually weave these virtues into our daily lives?
Well, they talk about mindfulness, reflection, and practice. It's about making those small, consistent efforts to actually align, like our thoughts and words and actions with these virtuous principles.
Okay, that makes sense in theory. But can you give us some concrete examples? How do we put these virtues into practice in a way that feels doable,
Absolutely. Let's start with benevolence, remember? That's about prioritizing the well-being of others, even in small ways. So think about, like, your workplace. Is it every man for himself? Or is there a genuine culture of helping each other out?
Oh, good point. I've definitely worked in places where it was all about competition. Not exactly a breeding ground for benevolence.
Exactly. So how can we shift that? Start small. Volunteering at a local charity, or donating to a cause you believe in, or even just offering a helping hand to a colleague who's struggling.
Okay, that feels doable. What about kindness? I feel like I'm generally a kind person, but how can I be more intentional about it?
Ancient wisdom suggests practicing what they call random acts of kindness.
Random acts of kindness. I like that.
It could be as simple as a genuine compliment, or holding the door open for someone, or letting someone go ahead of you in line at the grocery store. It's about bringing more awareness to those everyday interactions and looking for those little opportunities to just, brighten someone's day.
I love that. It's like sprinkling little bits of sunshine throughout your day, both for yourself and the people you encounter.
Exactly. And remember, true kindness doesn't come with strings attached. It's not about getting something back. It's about acting from a place of genuine warmth and care.
Okay, on to trustworthiness. In a world where everyone seems to be stretching the truth, how do we become the kind of person others can truly rely on?
Ancient wisdom puts a lot of emphasis on keeping your promises, both big and small. It's about being the kind of person people know they can count on, someone who always follows through. So think about those people in your own life. The ones who you always know will have your back no matter what. What qualities do they have?
Yeah. They're reliable, they're honest, they don't flake out when things get tough. It's a really solid feeling knowing someone's got you.
Exactly. So how do we become that person for others? Well, start with being mindful of the promises you make. Don't overcommit. And when you do commit, do your best to actually deliver.
So it's not just about being a yes person, but being thoughtful about what you can actually handle.
Right. And be transparent. Like if you make a mistake, own up to it. Take responsibility for your actions.
That takes courage. But it makes sense. Integrity builds trust. Okay, what about magnanimity? This one feels like a real challenge, especially for someone like me who can hold a grudge, like an Olympic weightlifter.
It's definitely not easy. But remember, ancient wisdom isn't about being perfect. It's about striving. So forgiveness, it can be really tough. But they offer some really interesting practices. One is trying to see things from the other person's point of view. Even if you don't condone their actions, can you understand their motivations?
So it's about trying to develop empathy, even for someone who's wronged you. Honestly, that's a big ask.
It is, but think about it this way. Holding on to anger and resentment, it's like carrying a heavy weight around. It weighs you down, even if the other person is totally oblivious. Forgiveness, even if it's just a tiny little step, it's like letting go of that weight.
That's a really good analogy. I guess forgiveness is as much a gift to yourself as it is to the other person. Okay, I'm willing to try. What about honesty? How can we become more truthful and authentic in our lives? It seems like everyone's putting on a show these days.
That's a good point. Ancient wisdom suggests starting with being honest with yourself. Are you living in a way that actually reflects your values? Are you being true to who you are even when it's uncomfortable?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's easier to look outward and judge others than to turn that spotlight inward.
It is. But think of it as a foundation. Once you're solid with yourself, it's so much easier to be honest with others. You don't feel the need to pretend or put up a front.
So it's about alignment. Our inner world and our outer world, our thoughts and our actions, all kind of pointing in the same direction.
Exactly. And remember, honesty doesn't have to mean being brutal. It should always be tempered with kindness and compassion.
Yeah.
Think about it. How would you want someone to be honest with you?
With respect and care, even if the truth stings a bit. Okay, so honesty plus kindness, got it. What about humility? This one feels like it goes against everything our culture values. How do you cultivate humility in a world that's obsessed with self-promotion?
Ancient wisdom has a really interesting suggestion. Focus on gratitude. When you appreciate what you have and acknowledge the contributions of others, it's easier to let go of that need to be the center of attention.
So it's a shift in perspective from what can I get to what can I give and what can I learn?
Exactly. It's about being open to learning from others, even those you might consider, beneath you. Everyone has something to teach us if we're humble enough to listen.
That's a humbling thought. Okay, 2 more to go. What about integrity? I think a lot of people talk about integrity, but how do you actually live it, especially when it's so much easier to take shortcuts?
Ancient wisdom says it starts with clarifying your values.
Yeah.
What do you stand for? What principles actually guide your decisions and actions? Once you're clear on your values, it's so much easier to make choices that actually align with them, even when it's tough.
So it's not just about being good, but about being good for the right reasons. It's about that inner compass that keeps you on course.
Exactly. And it's about consistency. Integrity means being the same person in public and in private, at work and at home.
So walking the talk, not just talking the talk. Okay, last but not least, perseverance. How do we cultivate more grit and determination, especially when we're just bombarded with distractions and instant gratification these days?
Ancient wisdom suggests starting with setting realistic goals and breaking them down into smaller, manageable steps. It's not about aiming for some impossible ideal, but focusing on making progress, step by step.
So it's about the process, not just the end goal, and celebrating those small victories along the way.
Exactly. And it's about developing what's called a growth mindset, believing that you can overcome challenges and achieve your goals through effort and persistence, not giving up when things get tough.
It's like those amazing stories of inventors who had hundreds of failed experiments before they finally got it right. Their perseverance paid off.
Exactly. Remember, the ancients believed that cultivating virtue is a lifelong pursuit. It's not about reaching some finish line, but about embracing the journey and striving to become a little bit better each day.
Wow, this has been so inspiring. It feels like we've gone from these abstract ideals to really practical tools.
And that's the beauty of ancient wisdom. It's not just about philosophy, it's about living a better life.
This has been incredible. But I feel like there's even more to explore. We've talked about cultivating these virtues individually, but how do they play out in our relationships with others? How can they transform not just our own lives, but the world around us?
That's a great question, and it's exactly what we'll delve into in the final part of our deep dive. Get ready for some seriously mind-expanding insights on how these 8 virtues can create a ripple effect of positivity and change.
All right, final part of our deep dive into these 8 virtues. And, I'm really curious about that ripple effect you mentioned. How can these virtues actually transform not just our own lives, but the world around us?
Well, think about it like this. Ancient wisdom suggests that, cultivating these virtues, it's not just about becoming a better person in some isolated sense. It's about contributing to a more positive and harmonious world.
So it's not just an inward journey, it's outward too.
Exactly. Remember that concept of eudaimonia we talked about earlier? That idea of flourishing, living in sync with your true purpose?
Right. And it wasn't about chasing fleeting pleasures, but living a life of virtue and excellence.
The ancient Greeks, they really believed that by striving for eudaimonia, you were also, benefiting society as a whole.
So each person who cultivates these virtues, they become like a shining light, guiding others toward a better path.
Exactly. Think about your own life. When you encounter someone who's genuinely kind, trustworthy, compassionate, doesn't it make you want to be a little bit better yourself?
Absolutely. It's like their virtue is contagious. It makes you want to, step up your game.
And that's one of the most powerful aspects of these virtues. They don't just change us individually. They have the power to transform our relationships, our communities.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does this connect back to those ancient methods for discerning character that we discussed? Like Guiguzi's 5 gazes, for example. How does that fit into all of this?
That's a great question. Remember how Guiguzi's 5 gazes were all about observing a person's actions in, very specific areas of life?
Right, like wealth, poverty, companions, endorsements, filial acts.
Well, when you cultivate these virtues within yourself, it naturally shapes your behavior in those very areas.
So if you're genuinely benevolent, it's going to show up in how you use your wealth. And if you're truly trustworthy, it'll be reflected in the company you keep, the people who vouch for you.
Exactly. These virtues aren't just lofty ideas. They're living principles that become visible in your choices and actions.
I love how it's all coming together now. The virtues, the shadows, the methods for discerning character, and this idea of eudaimonia. It's like they're all, interwoven, part of a larger tapestry.
That's a great way to put it. And that tapestry, woven from the threads of ancient wisdom, it can guide us toward more meaningful and fulfilling lives, both individually and collectively.
This has been incredible. It feels like we've gone from these abstract definitions to a much deeper understanding of what it actually means to live a truly virtuous life.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought: the path of virtue. It's not about achieving some kind of flawless perfection.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. It's about striving for excellence. It's about making those conscious choices to align your actions with your values. It's about, contributing to a better world, one virtuous act at a time.
Beautifully said. And remember, as always, we want to hear your thoughts. Which virtue resonated with you the most? What insights did you gain from this deep dive? Share your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the world of wisdom.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and, keep striving to live a life worthy of your highest aspirations.
See you on the next deep dive.